Hello, welcome to Smiley. Tonight we are discussing Chapter 6 of Full of Light. I am joined by Mora, but we
Hi.
both are very drunk. Hello.
Not yet very drunk.
We're not yet very drunk, but
just
we
get.
will be very drunk on very short notice. This was gonna go great. So, how are you
Okay,
doing?
I'm fine. It's a great chapter. If there's one chapter that drives us to drink, it's this one, or the next one,
I don't know if
or
you
the
can
one
hear
after
my,
that.
or that, yeah.
Yeah.
Or the one after
So,
that. I don't know if you can
yeah.
hear my fingers drumming, but yeah, I'm gonna be. Okay.
Oh, are you going to add sound effects to this?
I'm not going to. We're probably gonna edit that out, but just that's how it starts. So.
No, but
With
I do
no
have the
further
waves
ado,
to do it if you want. Like. Okay, fine. Follow Flight Chapter 6. I've just started numbering them, but then I stopped numbering after scene 1 because everything is so mishmashed and everything happens side by side. And it's a great chapter. It's very short, and I'm assuming we're going to take 1 hour to discuss this. But yeah, it's just that I can see why people like Gothos, right? Everything about this. This is just a Gothos chapter. Gothos,
Gothos.
Gothos. Right. So the scene begins with Gothos sitting at a table and tapping his nails, right? And Arathan is nearby. He is looking at it and he thinks that the way his nails fall looks like heated stones falling or something like that. And this is some huge empty table, which looks like a weathered plane. It's basically Arathan's POV for the most part, and yeah, he's. You should remember he's very young, so this is how it's going to be. So basically, Arathan stands at the entrance because there are four braziers like blazing inside, and it's very hot. But the outside is like pretty cold. So he's standing at the threshold, and one side is warm and the other side is very cold. And all this while, what is Gothos doing other than tapping his nails? He is indifferent. He's just indifferent. It's not like a foul mood or anything, but it's just a bout of obstinate silence and belligerent refusal to engage with anyone. So basically, in this summary, let me just clarify that I'm just most of the words that Steve uses are like so amazing. So I've just gone with the same word choices. So it might sound like I'm just reading off the chapter, but I'm not. I swear I'm not. Yeah. So in Arathan's imagination, he thinks that this silence can be filled like with a host of bridling emotions like condescension, arrogance, contempt, and all. And one might start feeling shamed or irrelevant in face of such silence. And maybe this is why he has his title, the Lord of Hate. And in this chapter, we find out why he's called it, right? So yeah, it's a good chapter. But then this type of silence is indifferent, so it's not very nobody has to take it personally, or it's not a threatening type of silence. It's not bitter. It's not like directed at one person and all that. He thinks all this. And how long has it been since he's been left here with the Jaghut by his father
Months,
Draconis?
weeks.
One
I
month.
don't remember.
Just 1 month.
1 month.
So 1 month he's been struggling with learning the written language of the Jaghut. And he's been like come I suppose getting friendly with Korea is a way to put it. Whatever, they're roommates now. So now Gothos calls this camp as people here have come like gadflies attracted to hood. So there are Telakai, there are dog runners, there are Jek, and even some blue people from across the sea. We don't have their name yet, so I'm going to ask you to not mention them by name, just blue people.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah. I don't want to go look up the timestamp and mute it once you say it.
It was
Yeah.
once.
Okay. So these blue people are basically seafaring people. They've come on ships, and those ships look like they've all seen battle because they're all burnt and battered, and even their armor is burnt. And they seem like a people who have just escaped from somewhere. And then there are some Furulkan and a few Taist. Only one Taist is dark in color. All the other are you know regular
Ice.
flavor taste, regular flavor. There's no vanilla or chocolate yet. So assuming so these are all deniers from the forest, right? And an important thing in this camp, there is a lot of sorcery happening, right? So even boulders, huge boulders, start weeping sweet water. Food can be conjured from earth, and fire can burn without fuel. There's basically a lot of magic all around, and people are all settling down. They are singing songs, funeral songs. They're making music, which is basically some mournful drum beats. And it looks like, I'm not exactly sure whose POV this is. Probably still Arathan or Korea, I'm not sure. So it looks like an island of life which is eager to set sail, and they seek death, right? Whose depth is beyond comprehension. Now, Korea has been telling Arathan that these people look like they're attending their own funeral. They are sharpening their weapons and getting ready, and the whole thing looks very pathetic to her. And to quote her, if this is all they can offer in defiance of death, then maybe they deserve the brevity of their lives. He finds the whole thing fascinating, but she doesn't. She thinks it's all sordid and sad. And to Arathan, it's like someone who has lost a candle inside a house fire, you know. And this is possible because she has a bitter cast of mind, and he sort of thinks that at some day she's going to be old enough, and she'll be completely bitter or something. Korea finds the whole thing, the war on death, that whole thing pointless, because there is no river to cross and there is no whirlpool to take you into the depth and all that. It's all a metaphor. You cannot declare war on death. And Arathan thinks, but no, who has? He did declare war on death. And who has hammered words from stone? And all these people have followed his declaration. So warriors and soldiers have all come seeking this war. And this is a great quote. He says something like, "Sacrifice Korea. See the sacred in giving, in blessed surrender." Yeah, I've written my first discuss here. When did we talk
Hmm.
about blessed surrendering and feeling the sacred in giving? Please answer while I have my
I'm
drink.
going to assume you mean Mother Dark, right?
No,
No?
Mother Dark. She has not surrendered
Oh,
anything.
you mean Draconis then?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Draconis, and there are
And
two people
Cruel.
talking about it. Yeah.
Last chapter, yeah. Mother Dark had wasn't about giving, but like giving in to the helplessness, I guess.
Ah.
When, at the moment of ecstasy, the priestesses would
Oh, oh, so
it was
that's
something
the
like
point.
she describes it in Port of Darkness to Emerald. I don't quite remember the exact quote, and
Right.
I'm a bit buzzed, so you know.
No worries. No, I was just thinking because just now we finished Krull and Draconis talking about blessed surrendering, and Arathan thinks the same way. Azat and I
Hmm.
blood, right? What can you do? But he doesn't share all this with her. My jokes are falling flat, either because you're too high or I'm just bad today.
No, no, no.
So
You're
he
doing
doesn't
well.
share all this and he keeps quiet. He feels like the details of his life are just too personal to share. After all, he has lost everything: his father, the woman he loves, the child he fathered, and now he has come here to learn about love from the Lord of Hate. So sad. It's like, I'm sorry,
Jeez.
man. I shouldn't have taken this chapter, but the thing is, I can't stand. He's like Gardens of the Moon crocus, and it is it brings out all the bad vibes
Yeah.
from me. So
More outs herself as secretly ageist.
not a secret anymore. I mean, I can see Gothos's point here. Like I couldn't have put it better the way he tells everything. So there's more coming. Wait. So anyway, he's thinking. Did I tell you I'm going to make my next flare as more tea?
More tea, less angst, yes.
Yeah. So anyway, as Arathan is thinking all these important thoughts, three jagged reach him. There's Hout, Verandas, and please tell his name. Who's the third
Burgast.
guy? Are,
Burgast.
are we saying
Burgast.
Burugast? Barugast. So
Bargast?
Hot, V, and B, because
Okay.
that's how I wrote. It's much easier that way.
Right.
Now, as they're walking in, Arathan looks at Hout, and he looks like he's just lost an argument. And as soon as he sees Arathan, he tells, "Find Korea and take her to bed and spare us all or something." But then Arathan says that he has seen her future and there is no surrender in it, and some kind of sexist shit. So then Gurugas says he has come expecting that he will. Yeah, I don't get it. Korea is just irritated and annoyed, and she has every right to be. She's not sexually frustrated that Arathan can just, cure her by just sleeping with her or something. I'm drunk. Durga says he has come expecting that he is going to freeze in Gothos' company, and Veranda says he is looking forward to the fury of Gothos. They all enter the room, and their armor, which was like ice filigreed or something, it starts sweating because Gothos keeps it very warm inside. They've all brought wine, and they all sit down and start having a drink. Should we?
Cheers.
Yes. So they all sit down, and what does Gothos do?
Nothing.
Nothing.
Absolutely nothing.
Yeah, he remains indifferent. And by this point I start forgetting like who tells what. One of them asks, I think Hout asks, who how is the folly going, and that even reasons for his suicide might grow long in the tusk, whereas death sits on a throne of ice. Veranda says they have
Yeah.
come here to disavow Hoot's madness, and they're going to armor themselves against wit, derision, ridicule, and contempt, and all that. Virgas thinks all this means nothing to Gothos. He's not an honest man or honest Jaghut or something. Hout says that Gothos can be accused of many things, but not dishonesty. You know, it's fair. Then Durgast feels he's like stuck in between two armies, the one they just left and the one sitting at this table. Veranda says he is waiting to hear Gothos's reason to reason them out of this war, because that's the way using reason he ended their civilization, right? So he is waiting for more reasoning from him. At this point, Hout says drunks can't be reasoned with, and what does he do? He pours himself more wine. Yeah. And now all the guessing games begin. They start, speaking for Gothos. They start saying what he might say. He might say that death has no high walls, no, there's no road leading there, and nobody can. Yeah, you have something?
No, go on.
Okay. And nobody can catch up to death and all that. And Hood and his army might as well declare war against the night or the sun. Is there any particular reason do you think they have kept these two imageries of night and sun? Because so far we're talking about. They could have said you can declare war against shadows, but they didn't.
Mm-hmm.
No? I don't know. It's all. There's a lot of night and sun and shadow in this chapter.
Mm-hmm.
It's also under the surface. While all this discussion is going on, Hout is a little out of it. He just says we're all chained to time, but death stands outside of it. Quote: The running sands are all stopped. Yeah.
Um, Resh in chapter 4, I think it was,
Hmm.
makes a very interesting argument that like time, space, life, and death are all connected because they're all different veils, and the
Ah,
veil of life and death is but another flavor of the three veils of past, present,
yeah.
and future. So something to keep in mind.
Nice, nice, good job.
Thank you. I try my best. Cheers.
Cheers. So, quote: The running sands are all stopped in that unknown place. Gothos will ask us, how are we going to fight indifference? Are we going to like cut through waves or
Cheers
whatever?
again. God.
Yeah, thanks. Now, out of pretty much nowhere, Biragas starts getting angry and he accuses Gothos of being anti hope, anti progress, and says that maybe he is death's own agent and Hood's enemy. In fact, Biragas is so angry that he's not going to yield to this guy, right? And the atmosphere becomes very tensed. But this is according to Arathan's POV. I'm willing to bet that at no point this atmosphere becomes tense with four jagged sitting and out of which only three are talking,
Yeah, and
right?
three of them are drunk as shit, and the other one's Gothos. So
Yeah, yeah. So Arathan is what's the word? What's the word I'm looking for? Not very, not very, not the sharpest guy.
yeah, not the sharpest tool in the drawer.
He lacks the age and the experience and the brains and right, right. So in walks this blue-skinned warrior, asking if this is a gathering of Hood's
Yeah,
officers.
the captain, I think it was.
We don't know. She doesn't give a name, and
Yeah, she
I'm
calls
pretty
herself the
sure.
captain, I think.
I don't think she calls herself anything. To be
Um,
fair, I was reading chapter 7 today, so
hmm
this was all written like 2 days back. You're looking up?
Yes. Hang on.
Okay. Can I keep continuing?
Yeah, go on.
Yeah, so Hout welcomes her. He introduces Gothos as the defier of food, who has been challenging them fiercely. She sits down, takes a drink, and then looks at Arathan. And Varandas tells, yeah, this is a child who's going to march with us. And so bold and so young. And, these guys can't talk him out of it because even Gothos hasn't been able to do it. So she doesn't give her name. She says, just don't remember me or something like that. And she says she's glad to have met the Lord of Hate and she welcomes his indifference.
Right.
Do you find anything?
No, it's mentioned later that this
See?
woman is the
See?
captain. So my bad. Yeah, sorry.
See? Okay, I don't have to mute this. It's a very minor thing.
No. It's like later in this chapter, the three blue-skinned people that Korya is looking at
Oh, they call her the
mention.
captain.
There's a
True,
fourth, and she's the
true.
captain,
Yeah,
but she doesn't
right.
identify herself as such here.
Maybe it could be a different captain.
Maybe.
Am I slurring? I feel like I'm slurring.
No,
She
no.
tells the Jaghut that they have lost their argument with Gothos, and it's good because now they can get used to being defeated more. And Hout can't take any more of this. He tells them to stop all the other officers like the Seregal and the Forulkan and Jek and all that. Verandas feels exhausted. He feels stupid, too stupid to even heed wisdom. And then Hout declares that they have all won against Gothos and now they can rejoice. Gurugas takes, he goes one step further. He says he's going to go to Hood and tell him that Gothos has surrendered. What was this whole thing? What was this scene about? What happened here? I really don't know. It was just great fun to read, and I don't care that basically nothing happened.
I
So
mean,
they've all, yeah,
it's so. It provides an interesting. I'm trying to order my thoughts while I'm on like half a glass of aquavit and a beer. It introduces an interesting contrast between how like Jagged argue and how Teist argue, because for the Teist, right, it's civility, it's this thin veneer of nobility and chivalry and all that shit, and then you have Hout and all the other Jagged like dressed in full like armor with an axe and saying we had arguments in iron once, and they're just like drunk out of their minds, throwing shit at someone who doesn't even respond. Meanwhile, the
yeah,
Teist who are civilized and chivalrous or whatever the adjective is, I don't remember, murder one another constantly. So that's one thing. The other thing is obviously like this kind of is a reenactment of how the Lord of Hate destroyed Jagged civilization, I suppose.
maybe, yeah, yeah.
Lastly, it is sort of like how Prazak and Dathanar would like recap previous stories. Here you have something similar of, okay, this is what he's going to say to us. And Gothos
Ah,
doesn't need to say it because they've already said it for him, so he just shuts up and just waits for them to like run through his entire argument, because anything he says, they're just gonna pick apart. So if they bring up what he's gonna say anyway, there's no need to talk. But it still flushes out Gothos' character. More so when he goes like, let it not be said that I did not try my best or some such shit.
wait for it, wait. So yeah, so these guys are feeling very proud that they have withstood the first assault, and so very happily they leave. And Hout has a parting shot for Gothos saying, "You're too formidable." And now when I leave, Korea is probably waiting to ambush me. So no wonder I'm running towards death. Do you know that I never thought I would feel bad for Hout one day. So now this blue lady, she tells Arathan that his last war should not be his first. Obviously, Arathan is fully convinced. He's young and all. So he tells Gothos, after they all leave, he tells Gothos that he expected to hear Gothos's final argument. And all he says is, let it not be said that I did not try my best. So, yeah. And then he gets pen and paper and starts working some more or something. Now, meanwhile, Korea is sitting on a boulder and she's watching three blue people make camp. She can see their shadows, and if you ignore the flesh and look at only the shadows, you can see it flowing like water, like ink. But even with all this, a shadow can't push even a pebble, right? So these three have likely they're washed up from a shipwreck, one of their mates, they have seen him swimming away in a hurry, and their captain is quiet, doesn't tell them what's going on. The guy with them, out of the three, one is a guy called Cred. He sets up a stove and starts building fire because he's carried live coals. He's apparently taken the flames, and thus he's taken away something called the living claim from the ship. I don't know if this is important later or if this is it. He just, yeah, he let the ships to roll, and they're effectively tombs now, is what they all
Right.
conclude. The younger of the women, Stark, she has noticed all this, that what he has done, because she is so quick and clear eyed. And the older
Other way
one,
around. No. It's Cred refers to himself.
Cred calls her being quick and
No.
clear
She
eyed.
says like you were quick to take away the living claim, and he says quick and clear-eyed.
Oh, that is to about himself.
He
I
speaks
thought
about
he said
himself.
something like,
Yeah.
you
I thought
noticed
so
it
too.
because you're
I
quick
thought so
and
too.
clear eyed.
Yeah. But
Okay,
no.
thanks. Okay. Right, yeah.
So
So Cred is
before
a
we
dick,
go
basically.
on,
Yeah,
I wouldn't say he's a dick, but anyway, what I wanted to
he is.
mention is like
Yeah.
this living claim thing is
Yeah.
actually somewhat reminiscent of there is, I know flames in general are important in Zoroastrian faiths, but that's too long ago and I don't remember. And more pertinently, in the Roman Republic and later Roman Empire, there was what was known as the Sacred Hearth, and there was an entire religious order called the Vestal Virgins, which were dedicated to the goddess Vesta, who was the goddess of the hearth and the sacred flame.
Did they
Who,
have
yeah,
like some intricate, great hairstyles or something which people have been trying? Yeah, there was something about those. Yeah.
I don't
Okay.
know.
Yeah,
To be
go
honest
on,
with
go
you, I
on.
don't know. But in general, they were handpicked from a young age. They were required to be chaste, obviously, but they were very well respected in general. And their job was basically to tend the flame because there was a fire at the temple complex of Rome,
I was right. Yeah.
which decrees that if it ever goes out, Rome will fall. Right. So
Yeah.
it's similar. So following some technical issues,
Yeah. We're back.
we were talking about the Vestal Virgins, right?
Yeah.
Who tended Rome's sacred flame, and essentially their deal was that if the flame goes out, Rome will fall. So I'm assuming, since they're calling it the living claim, something very similar is going on here.
No, I'm just assuming that because these are seafaring people, they must have carried like live coals, and it must have been a much bigger deal that who carries the coal is essentially able to live, whereas the others have to like find ways to make fire or something like that.
I would assume the claim in this case refers to like the claim upon the throne of the kingdom they're fleeing,
Oh, oh,
but I'm not sure.
right. We don't know. Right.
Yeah.
So anyway, these things are happening, and of the three, the older woman is sorcerer. So she's hesitant to use blood magic to, do desalination of the seawater. But because these are all land magics and she's not very familiar with it. But the other two convince her, and then she pricks her thumb. And Korea can see that the magic in this place is like still a promise, full of dark promises or something. It's all writing in sand till the sand turns to stone. Now, Hout had explained to her that all this is happening because of this one mad Azathanai called Krull, and her thoughts turn to death, and how death is basically turning away from the wonders of life. But yet, at this place where they're all like trying to face death, magic is gathering. And what is this going to yield? A sorcery which is guided by a Jaghut who is poisoned with grief. And she is now sensitive enough that she can see the crowd of spirits converging on Brella, the sorceress. And she senses that at a distance there's a huge, hungry monster which has awakened. And she stands up to face it. Next scene, we go to Arathan, who is making tea, and Gothos has now, he stopped his big activity of tapping his fingers, and is just chilling. So the sun is setting, and shadows are flowing into the doorway. You know, who knows what's the importance there?
Ooh.
He serves tea. Yeah, he serves tea, and says that he all he thinks of is his father and the Azathanai blood in him. And yeah, this is when Gothos starts his long lecture. He says, blood is not an honorific. One day I hope you can call Draconos your friend. Arathan is shocked. He says, how I don't see him as a friend or anything. Then Gothos launches into a long awaited lesson. So basically, the way I've understood this is that the remaining part of this is when you have family, your identity is shaped over a number of years and years, from childhood onwards. And this you is made up of strictures. And if you consider one of your family as your friend, you're only considering them only the simulacrum of them. They're not exactly the real them. It's only a simulacra which is present within the family. Because inside a family, everyone is just wielding fists and trying to make a space for themselves. Harathan thinks of his own family, and finally he concludes that it was only the horses who were fully loyal to him. Gothos laughs, very appropriate for this young boy, saying that in his whole life he's seen loyalty only with his horses. And he laughs at him and says, friendship is a family you choose. What you give, you do so freely, and what you withhold will measure its depth. And he starts talking about two extremes of friendship, those who can only stay as distant associates, and those who are so friendly that they can start embracing strangers. Arathan says that surely there must be healthier varieties, but Gothos, being Gothos, he says that he's going to begin with the kind of friendships that may have damaged him in past experiences. Arathan says he would rather not have the few experiences he has be savaged, and Gothos calls it as better to defend your delusions. But does it stop him? Does it stop him lecturing him? No, obviously not. He goes on. So he has things like, he starts describing things called wave people and island people. If I was sober, I would have done this. I would have done a better job of this. But see, so there are, right? The island people are those who make themselves into cold, dark, cavernous places, bottomless pits where any wave that crashes gets sucked down. And everyone goes through island phases, obviously, but he's not talking about that. He's talking about the permanent residents of this island place. So here is a fortress where the self stands alone and inviolate. But the wave people, these are bright and full of life, and they think they have so much life in them that they can bring happiness to anyone, to even these islanders. And they exult in giving. So, is this a repetition? Have we discussed this?
Mm-hmm.
The people who exult in giving and feel drunk on generosity. And they try to change the island, but ultimately the island cannot change.
Yep.
And when with all this, what Arathan says, which really made me feel sad for him.
She
He
was
says
not
that
like that.
she was not like that. I know. And Gautam says, I don't know whom you're talking about. And just continues. He says, this is an excellent paragraph. Like, when you meet a true friend, you will know there is mutual respect. And shall I just continue quoting it?
Sure.
No one clings to your shadow, even as they grow to despise that shadow and the one who so boldly casts it. Your feelings are not objects to be manipulated with cold intent or emotions' blind, unreasoning heat. You are heard, you are heeded, you are challenged, and so made better. This is not a tie that exhausts, nor one that forces your senses to unnatural extremes of acuity. You are not to be tugged or prodded, and your gifts of wit and charm are not to be denigrated for the attentions they earn. And one day Arathan will see Draconis as a friend, but his father already sees him that way. Arathan gets, irritated enough that he asks, "Why are you defending Draconis?" Excellent question. I think we can ask a few people, a few of our friends, why are you defending Draconis? They don't listen to us, so it's fine. And then Gothos says that he's not defending Draconis, he's defending his son's future, as a friend would do. And Arathan feels, he's so silenced by it because it's so unexpected. He thinks, why is this guy called a Lord of Hate? He's giving me such a loving gift. And as if he has heard it, Gothos explains what his title really means, that he doesn't hate love or joy or hope. He hates cruelty, he hates unworthy thoughts and base emotions and stupidity that ends civilizations. And he and also Draconis, they're both glad that Arathan is away from the Teist civil war. And you know how the scene ends? Arathan just says his tea is surprisingly sweet. Which is just, oh, so good. This chapter is so good.
Which
Right.
is interesting because we are told repeatedly that this particular brew of tea is particularly bitter, which is why
Yeah.
Gothos prefers it. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
turns out Steve's good at writing. Who knew? I
No,
didn't.
no. Turns out your taste sensations are highly emotion dependent. So
Oh, are they now?
probably.
Fascinating.
Okay. Shall we go back to Korea?
Since we're here, might as well mention that there is one particular candidate that we have for Arathan, and he is technically called Friend by Draconis. You can probably guess who this is.
Oh no, nobody can guess this.
So that checks out.
I don't know.
It's
I
it's
don't know.
Ruthen. It's Ruthen in Desert Dreams, like chapter 20, when Draconis
Does he
returns.
does he call him friend? Like, is that a thing?
Uh,
I forgot.
Draconis calls him friend, and then it's like, no, I think I'll stay here. It's like, yeah, whatever. This is Calor's Empire friend. Will you reconsider? Oh no, I'm fine here. Thank you very much. Good day.
Draconis calls Ruth and friend, or Ruth and
Yeah,
calls Draconis friend.
Draconis calls Ruthen friend.
So maybe he's still not come around to his father, calling
Yeah.
him a friend.
He does end that monologue with like, "Meet me again, and one of us will die." So I don't think he's come around to his father now either. But hey,
Yeah. Okay, back to Korea. Brilla is bleeding out. That Leviathan is moving closer and closer. It is desperate for mortal blood. Korea blames Skrull, and then she decides, she's going to take things into her own hands. She's, after all, a Mahybe, Mahybe, whatever.
Mahybe,
Mahybe,
I don't know, Mahybe.
Mahybe, whatever. So, and she stands up and she's facing it, and she can see the ethereal
So drunk.
shape. Who are you?
A little bit, yeah. Please go on. Go on.
She can see this worm-like thing with thick arms and an unending snake-like body. Where else have you seen an unending snake-like body in Madison?
Drek?
Oh, that's called Drek. Yeah. In my notes I wrote Driss and I wrote a question mark because I couldn't remember who
No,
that is.
Dress is the Warren.
Drek.
Drek is the goddess. Slash
Drek can
god.
be both. Yeah.
Slash whatever.
Yeah, it's both rebirth and what's the
Decay.
other word? Decay. Yeah, thanks. So yeah, maybe this is how Drek was formed. So maybe this is how Drek, the Azathanite Drek, came into the world. Because
Don't think Drek is an Azathanai.
then what is it?
It's something else. It's something alien, actually. We hear it's in Blood and Bone. Like, we see what race Drek is, and it's like some alien worm thing. That's really old.
Alien. Do they use the word alien?
Not necessarily. I don't think they mention, like, not of this world, but it's not Azathanai.
No. I think it's Azathanite.
If it appears in Garcanis, we'll know.
Yeah, it's appeared. See?
No,
It's
yeah,
here.
so, true enough.
Yeah.
And how it puts in the fucking acorn, so,
Anyway, she feels its attention to turn towards her, and at the same time, she feels something opening up deep inside her. And she says, "Okay, there is a bit of things which I don't agree with, saying that it's every woman's burden to take this or some crap like that." And all of a sudden, Hout, she just hears the words "stupid girl" because Hout pushes her away, and he takes the monster. Apparently, he puts it in an acorn and gives it to her, and he leaves
A
in a huff.
fucking acorn.
Yeah, yeah. I think you really
I
liked that reaction. Yeah.
I vividly remember the audiobook when
Haha.
he goes like an acorn, a fucking acorn. Like the disbelief was present in his voice very well.
The audiobook is so good. I'm not able to read the next chapter without finishing the audio of the one, of the previous chapter. It's so perfectly done. I don't know, anyone else couldn't have done Fall of Light. It's just, this guy is amazing. He's done good justice. And Hood's voice is like stand out great in this.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, he gives the acorn and Hout leaves, and the three people at the base of the boulder, they're all fine. Now, as they're walking away, Verandas tells Hout that his Teist girl is too ambitious She's young and fearless and all that, and she's also sensitive now. Burgast agrees, but she is also dumb enough to invite this monster, and he doesn't want her on this march, because
Foolish, precipitous, and dangerous.
yeah, that's what he thinks. Because these guys are obviously not foolish, right? They're so smart, they're going to war against death, so they don't want
Yeah.
a foolish girl with them, right? Now, How thinks that he is waiting for some Azathane or maybe even a dog runner to take charge of her. Gurugas says that, maybe he should just send her back because he's not suited for pets. Yeah.
Yeah.
And and how he defends his incident with whatever happened with Rice's cat and says, even I warned him or something. But anyway, Korea is not a pet. She is a weapon. And Verandas thinks, isn't it careless to leave a weapon just lying around? And Hout replies, it does, doesn't it? And they just keep walking. And they go to meet Hood. And Hood says that as officers, they're all ready to start saluting and whatnot. Verandas tells him, don't challenge Hood. He's the Lord of Grief. Hout gives a classic, I'm not with them. These guys, they just followed me here. And they all sit down. And then they have like very, flowery language. They start that these two are patient but sad and maybe a bitter and a little envious and all that. And then he reiterates that their envy, they are envious because Hood has decided to take a stand against an implacable enemy like death. And all of them will walk his way for the envy they feel at his courage. They all settle down. Verandas thinks that the flames which they are using is sorceress. There is no heat there. And Howard says that, if light and dark have rivals, then heat too has its rival. So this one doesn't have heat. So once again, they all sit down and they start guessing at what the silent one is thinking. That these flames are not real because their station of command is not real too. Burgess wants practicalities like how are we going to command and how are we going to organize ourselves, and does this remind you of Sintara asking the same questions? How are we going to organize ourselves? And yeah, the
Speak
difference is
not to
that
me
it's
of
diced.
Sintara. I'm just. We're gonna get to her.
Can I just tell people that one of the messages you sent after reading Sintara's POV in the next chapter is eat shit, Sintara. Yeah, I really like that. I'm so looking forward to next one. Yeah, and how it says that they need a banner, and what discipline do they want and all that. How to ask like how what exactly are we going to do? We can't. Are you thinking about Sintara and giggling?
No, I'm just drunk as shit. Please continue.
Yeah. Oh, this is what I'm going to do for the next two chapters because you're taking like what? You're going to split the chapters into two. So it's
They're really
4 hours
big.
of
I have okay. I'm recording this. I have finished the first scene of the next chapter, and it's taken 2,000 words. So
I am not good. Even I won't listen to that.
I'm
Fine,
sorry.
sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, but no, I'm going to get that drunk. Is what I'm going to say.
Jesus Christ. Okay, please
Yeah.
continue. Cheers.
So right. So they're saying, what is the point of organizing ourselves because we can't send out scouts because there are no real borders and it's all within your own mind. Varana says that he doesn't want to sit here and wait for old age, and he's little surprised that Hout, who's a veteran, has also joined Hood. Hout
Mm-hmm.
says that warriors are warring all the time. They're all addicted and they're ambitious. And Burgas asks Hood to yield a single word. He wants to see this enemy. And Hood only replies, if you have come here, if you would follow. And that's it. That's all he says. And Burgas says that maybe they're all still deciding, and if reason wins, then maybe they'll all just leave. And Hood says then he will still tend the fire there, or at least the illusion of the fire. And someone asks, is Hood already dead? And he says, he's just waiting, for an end of the battle. Hout is the one who clarifies that Hood is waiting for an end of the battles within them. They have to war against reason, and when they win, the march can begin. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So this is the ultimate conclusion of all the things they've been talking about. They need to determine. They need to. Yeah, yeah,
No, go on. When you finish, I want to bring up a few things.
yeah. That's it. Yeah, they're going to.
Okay. Yeah. So for one, it's good to remember that Haupt and Hood are brothers. So
Yeah,
if anyone understands Hood, it's probably Haupt.
yeah,
That's one thing. And the other thing is that all of the Jaghut mentioned here, Haupt, Varandas, B, Burgast, um, Sanad, and the other guy whose name I forgot,
yeah, yeah. Even
are
I forgot.
all
Yeah,
members of Hood's 14 in the Book of the Fallen. They are all mentioned in the Book of the Fallen. And
yeah.
the differences are astounding, that like, what was that war again and all that shit. So,
Do you think there is a difference? Because I don't. It's the same guys. It's the
oh no,
same
it's
sense of
definitely
humor.
like
Yeah,
the same sense of humor tracks. It's just the way they
yeah,
speak and the way they contract and conduct themselves is very different. They just have no
yeah,
fucks left
yeah.
to give. It's like, oh, whatever, yeah,
Yeah.
penance. It's all for us to give. Whatever, come along, it'll
Okay,
be
wait,
fun.
wait. This is a bit coming. Wait. So Varandas is fine with all this because he slays reason 1,000 times a night, which is like extremely relatable. Then they say that, as Jagat, we will take the lead here. There can't be more stubborn or obstinate people than us. And
Hmm.
by this time, the Senegal reached them. We have seen like five Senegal, isn't it?
Yep. Midnight
In
Tides.
Midnight Tides. Okay. So these are Telakai who are hated by their own kin. You know why? For slaying their humor. And just note that the word slay is like repeatedly used again and again. I don't know why. So there are 20 of them here, but previously we had seen only five in Book of the Fall. So they request Hood that they want to be the vanguard and they will raise a banner to slay death so that when they return there will be no more dying. Veranda says that yeah, this is a well rehearsed speech, it's good. But what you describe will mean that the world will be crowded. And the Damas Senegal thinks it's a good thing because then it means there will be many battles over land and wealth and security and all that. Then these guys start asking, obviously the jagged debate team, what's the point of a battle where nobody dies? Or what's the point of wealth when all you can do with it is accumulate it? And what security can you have when the next enemy can attack at any time? And the land, surely there is no land left, it's all just an ocean of crimson mud. Maybe people will start thinking that death is the better option and someone will declare a war of life. Yeah. So like I said, the jagged debate team will win anything you throw at them. So Howard says that this is Strife's own circle. And so he says, sure, you Senegal can be the bold van of this. And the one of the Senegal, he recognizes Hot and says, haven't we defeated each other? And Hot says that, I would rather call it as sharing opposing victories. Then Veranda says that he wants to see a meeting between the two, Gothos and Hood, and Hout wonders what else is left for the Lord of Hate to tell the Lord of Grief, or the Lord of Grief to tell the Lord of Hate.
Hmm?
And suddenly Hood stands up and tells them, mind the fire, and walks away. And yeah, tell me. And Veranda says, I see no value in minding these flames. And then they start laughing.
God, these people are idiots.
Are they now? Look at us laughing at them, laughing about these things.
So, okay, the only thing I really have to add here is Farandas is unequivocally a woman in the Book of the Fallen. Like, there's no question about it. He's a woman.
Oh, yeah, I missed out all that. Yeah, I didn't mention that. Yeah,
He
yeah, tell me.
is referred to as a woman. His voice is referred to as like feminine. He has feminine characteristics, all of that. And like
For the
at
darker
first, like especially in the last book, because there's mention of Farandas's
manhood.
loincloth failing to hide his manhood.
Yeah,
It felt like accidental, and now it's just so tongue in cheek because like every chapter that Baron appears in, there's some mention of like him being a woman or some such.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
how it mentions like he acts like an old woman or some such shit.
He calls him, yeah, don't
And
be
it's
such an
so
old
good.
woman or
It's
something.
so
Yeah,
good. It's so
yeah.
that's all I have to say. They're
It's
they're idiots and I love them. That's all.
it's like Steve just thought, oh, I made a mistake. I'm just going to roll with it. I'm
Yeah,
not
we're gonna
going to
roll
like
with it. Yeah, yeah.
back down, change anything. So yeah, now Korea is walking through the camp, and she's thinking of Karkanas. No, I'm just imagining because I read the next chapter today. This has such a tone. This entire chapter 6 is such a different vibe compared to what's coming
Oh
up
yeah,
next. It's like, oh, I can't even believe it's the same book. Like, why is all this happening in the same book? Look at this tone. Look at how many fun things are happening here.
I see no value in minding these flames. How about the next fucking chapter? And just, ugh.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, now Korea is walking through, and uh, she's thinking of Karkanas, and she thinks that now that it has transformed, is all the people there going to be in a state of eternal contemplation?
Mm.
Not going to be music or speech or anything. People are just going to be standing around wondering what next. And she thinks of them all as dolls. And if she was a god, she would just leave them alone. But then she also thinks that it is so cruel that nobody should suffer a god's dismissal. A better fate would be to be frozen forever. See, this is why I've been telling you from Forge of Darkness. Korea has a lot of similarities to Mother Dark. The way she thinks about her dolls and
Yeah,
the way
yeah,
she
yeah.
thinks about godhood, it's like it's almost like a stand-in for what Mother Dark is probably thinking. So she's
Absolutely.
thinking all these things and finally notices that this guy is walking next to her. He's walking along with her. He's also blonde. He's a dog runner and he has light colored eyes. Can I just quickly tell you what I think of light colored eyes? In your country,
Hmm.
do you have people with light eyes? Like, how common is it? Do most people have dark eyes, or is it all you get to see all types of eye colors?
Generally speaking, it's mostly dark colors. Yeah.
Okay, so when you meet someone with light eyes, is it like very noticeable for you? It's very
It
stand
depends
out
on
for
how
you.
bright they are. Like if they're like bright blue,
Okay.
yeah. If it's like just light yellow or not yellow, like grayish or green,
Hmm.
green is probably noticeable. But if it's more dull and it's like
Okay.
striking, not so much.
Okay, because I was talking to someone else and we all realized that we don't really notice if the coloring is blue or green or brown or whatever. All I notice is that it is different. It's like a light color,
Yeah.
and that's all. I can't like pinpoint exactly what other color it is because I'm just so used to dark brown, black eyes. So
Hmm.
it's all the same. And she does the same thing because she doesn't notice which color his eyes are. She just notices that they are light colored. She mentions, I think, blue or gray or something like that, and just leaves it at that, which makes sense because when I see like books mentioning very specifically this guy has this particular color of eyes and all, it's like very hard. Like even if you say that someone has blue eyes, unless I take care to notice, I won't notice. So anyway, this dog runner, he has painted tears on his face and he's very happy with her. And Korea asks, what are you looking at or something? And he says, I but smile in admiration. Then she learns his backstory that he's here to bring back his mother's lost sister. And Korea wonders, why do the dead want to come back?
Hmm.
Which Korea and Gothos are the only two relatable people in this chapter. Can I say that? She wonders why do the dead want to come back? Like, aren't mortals always alone? What is so special about mortal flesh that they want to come back and be with living people? This sort of the concept of souls in Hinduism, like souls are immortal. They're just okay. So we're back again. So I was just telling you about the concept of souls in Hinduism. It's like immortal, which is created from the one Paramatman, and Paramatman gives out like each Atman, and then after death it all
Hmm.
goes back. And it's almost the same type of concept that it's always alone, except when it goes and joins God or something.
Hmm.
So uh, she's talking about all these things, and basically what this dog runner Iphail tells her is he wants to sleep with her, and she says no. And then she goes on to advise him that the Jaghut are fools and they shouldn't be following them. They aren't gods, right? Is Do you think that there is a reason she's saying that they are not gods to this dog runner? Because very soon Raist is going to start making the Imas worship him as a god, you know. Isn't that what the Jagged tyrants do?
We already have mention of Arathan saying this last book, right? That some jagged have come among the Imas, well, the dog runners, excuse me, and have
Oh,
started playing gods.
it has started already. Okay, right.
Yeah.
Oh, so maybe that's why Korea is telling them that these are not gods. Okay.
I think that's more like Galan putting it in. Like I don't think Korya knows about us. It's more like she doesn't like the jacket in general. And like,
Hout
oh,
might
it's,
have told her. He's a good teacher.
could be, yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, Ifile says that they don't kneel to Hood himself; they're kneeling to his promise. And she then starts telling him that this is all a metaphor and all that, and ends it with, look at me trying to explain poetic nuance to a dog runner. And then she asks him, how long have you been following me? And he says he wasn't following her. And, he says that he just fell from the sky because that's what Ifile means. And she turns away and he doesn't really follow her. She wishes that he had come along because she wanted to see Arathan's face, that, when she's with a dog runner or something. But maybe he's asleep instead of wondering what she's up to, and even this makes her annoyed. And she's also annoyed at Ifile for rejecting her when she had also rejected him first. And yeah, young people being young. That's all.
Yeah. So
And then she
the
thinks
yeah, no, no, no.
her last quote to end this, that death will have to chase me down, hunt me across, I don't know, centuries. And even then, I vow to leave it dissatisfied. Yeah, go on.
The only thing I want to bring up is that Ifile, I think more calls
Ifile,
it,
yeah, please tell me. Yeah,
is a Tlanimas clan.
yeah.
He is a clan leader in the Book of the Fall. Well, in actuality, his clan has more or less been wiped out in a sale, in the novel A Sale.
Ah,
Anastog
okay.
says in Memories of Ice, like, there are no more Ifale, and then we go to like a sale, and there's a few more left, but anyway, food for thought.
Nice, nice. Yeah, I knew
The other
I've
thing
seen that
is,
name
yeah,
and I didn't
yeah,
know that where it would come. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah. The other thing is, I think we covered this in Horde of Darkness, that Correa Delath is potentially, maybe, possibly one of the souls in Quickben.
Yeah.
And her talking about like leaving death dissatisfied just makes it all the more interesting because he just bitch slapped Hood into doing his bidding in Memories of Ice. So there's that, which is interesting. But
Yeah.
food for thought.
Right. Okay. Last scene. I've written last scene, but I don't know if this is really the last scene. Now, Arathan is
It
sitting
is. It
and
is.
thinking he doesn't want to go to his roommate Korea because she's going to argue and scoff at him and all that. But at the same time, this guy has thoughts. He has deep thoughts. That love is given only once, and Ferren had discarded him once she got pregnant. And he was having a hard time accepting the fact that he was maybe too young for all this. Anyway, it doesn't make him resent Draconis any less, and no wonder that Draconis and Gothos are friends. They are both old and bitter guys, and all they do is offer a corner of their wisdom blanket to the young. And his only real emotion is his love for Ferren. And I have legit written sigh because I can't. And Gothos is so perfect. He throws a cup at him and says, "More tea and less angst." And he says, "Make hasty your flight from certainty. You young people have very little in your bags, so everything seems bulky and awkward and everything. But to us, it looks like jaunty little purses." Arathan says, "Are you belittling my wounds?" And can you see how much I'm enjoying this? And Gothos tells him to cherish the sting of his dismissal. After all, if mockery can wound so easily, he's just beginning his thing, and Arathan interrupts. "Shall I sweeten this bitter old tea?" And Gotha says, "I can hear your silence groaning like a host of hungover bards." And then he tells him that old tea has more subtle flavor, but sure, you can add a bit of honey. And Varandas probably once said that the tusk sweetens with age. Like, probably Arathan is trying to call Gothos that he's too old or something. But Gothos tells him that Varandas is a maudlin fool. Don't talk to him about your tragedies, or it will soon become a contest of who is more hurt. And then they talk about dental caries for no reason, and that type of risk people take, that obsessed people can take to get their fix. Gothos has no such fear because a suicide note involves no obsession. It is just singular and modest. and he's going to finish it, and he's going to get it perfectly so that he can prove that he was never obsessed. He was just curious. Arathan says he doesn't want to say that he looks forward to it. And then Gothos thinks, this sweet tea is too sweet. That's because you're too young. You have made it too sweet. Right. Now, now is the final scene. Hood arrives and he's offered tea to drown his sorrows. Hood admits that he despaired. It's not the actual war, but these questions of organization and pragmatism and all that.
I just want to go
Yeah,
the entire thing. Just Hood
yeah,
goes,
go
I
on, go on.
despaired. This is your story, yes. Not that, you gas-bloated goat. Day and night I am assailed, and I just love this.
Gas
God, these two are
bloated
excellent.
goat. Yeah. Yeah, and then he says Gothos blames Hood for spoiling his afternoon because his officer showed up here, and he's a cause for sorrow for many others. Hood objects, but Gothos disagrees that his tragedy might be his own, but the way he's choosing to answer it is the cause of sorrow for many others. And tragedy can sit still, but vengeance can silence any army. Vengeance. Remember vengeance? And then Hood says he doesn't care. The offense taken by the other Azathanai are enough vengeance for him. And Gothos says these Azathanai are as useless as us. At most, they can send the
Expect
equivalent of
nothing
it. Yeah,
concerted,
yeah.
not even a proclamation of, what would it be? Censure? Decided disapproval? Disagreeable frown.
Frown.
Oh
Like a
my
strongly worded
god.
letter. Yeah, that's the equivalent of that. Hood says he is cowed of vengeance and he feels like he's a hollow bronze urn. Like a Mahybe, right? Like a hollow
Yep.
urn. And Gothos says, this is how I'm going to think of you from now on, like a hollow bronze urn. And Hood says, whenever I think of you, I'm going to think of a book without resolution, a tale without end, and I will pointedly think about pointlessness. And it depends on who outlives the other. And finally Hood says that Arathan, when they reach the threshold of no return, he is going to return Arathan, uh, unless he rather didn't return him. Gothos thinks, no, 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 do send him back, maybe not here, maybe anywhere else, but do send him back. And finally Arathan says, maybe you two have not thought about if I might have a say in this. And the only response Hood has is, did the pup speak? And Gautam says, yeah, some semblance of speech, yes. And then Arathan goes into this long line of, you will hear me speak, sir, and you will make no argument with me accompanying you and all that. And Hood says, I will not. And he says, yes, sir, you will not. And Gautam is the one who says, he knows our mind, you see, being young and all. Then with that, Hood also stretches his legs just like Gothos, and Gothos goes back to tapping his nails, and Hood starts taking a nap. And Arathan just stares at them both. And end of chapter. See, I finished in 1 hour.
Yeah. I too will finish in 1 hour, just it'll be 2 hours total. So it's fine, same difference.
Right.
Oh, I'm so drunk, I'm sorry.
But wasn't it good? It was a good chapter. It was
Oh
just
yeah.
so much fun. Gothos and Hood are amazing. So any
There's
further thoughts on this or?
there is something of the transcendental in Gothos, because in the Book of the Fallen he's treated more as a joke. He's like, oh yeah, he's father of a Icarium, Raised wasn't one of his more favorable offspring, and all that shit. And he has killed a few Tlanimas. We don't know of his role, his title of Lord of Hate, until like Blood and Bone.
Mm-hmm.
And in general, he's little more than just this hoary old jagged bastard that is more interested in, private curses, the best kind, and despising his own company and making shitty deals with gods because it tickles him purple or something, in which he's little different than Amanas. Here, especially coupled with Hood's words in last book, like where he goes to Draconis, like Gothos chained me out of love. You can see Gothos is fleshed out a lot more, but in the same not necessarily like lighthearted way. None of this is lighthearted, right? Like, yeah, it's funny. Jagged are funny, but they're marching onto war. They're marching on a war in which they will all die, and they know it. And what's not made immediately clear in the Book of the Fallen, like it's made here, is that Gothos' suicide note, endless suicide note, which he hasn't finished 300 out of however long after this, the Book of the Fallen takes place, he hasn't finished it, is because love is priceless, and an endless suicide note is not.
No, an
Yeah,
endless
no?
suicide note. Is it the quote from Because of Fallen or from Carcanas?
It's from Forge of Darkness.
Oh, okay, sure.
Yeah,
Sure,
it's
sorry.
Arathan talks to Gothos about, what's the value of an endless suicide note, and Arathan responds that because it shows the value of life and how life is priceless.
Something like affirmation of living, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember the exact quote. You can probably find it. It's when Draconis and Hound both reach Optus Falak, like chapter 16,
Tower
17,
of
something like
Hate,
that.
yeah.
And then you have Hood, who is poisoned by grief, but you can tell that he loves Gothos dearly. Like, for all their fuckery, it's like he's staying behind to espouse life, even as these have to march into death. So that someone remembers them, someone witnesses them, right? Even if their witness is just this hoary old idiot who's basically making a point by not talking and
Yeah.
drinking sour tea with a nugget of honey in it and all that. It's very sweet. It's that odd way of absurd humor that really works with a Jaghut. It's not my favorite brand of humor that Erickson employs, but when it works, and it really works with a Jaghut, it's very good writing. And I
Can I
really,
just
really
ask,
appreciate. Yeah,
what is your favorite brand of Erickson humor?
probably the Marines, honestly.
Oh,
It's
that is so. It's just anyone can do it. I don't know.
yeah,
This type of
that's true.
humor is much more harder to pull off. You
I'm
know
not going to
what?
contest that.
You know what Gothos in this book reminded me of in this chapter? The one with Osirk with the staring contest
Oh
of
yeah, yeah,
not
yeah,
talking
yeah,
anything, and it
yeah,
was so frustrating and it was so funny. It was,
yeah.
yeah. Instead of one guy, he had like three guys. At least we got to see some dialogue here. That one was just pure frustration. Cam
And
doesn't
yeah,
care.
if they stuck around long enough, he would just go like, "What the fuck do I need to tell you to don't do this? Like is that what you want me to say? Don't do this."
No, maybe with Osirk he might open his mouth, but with these three fellow Jagged, I don't think he will ever open his mouth. I don't think he's ever going to
Probably not. Yeah,
say a word to them. If they can't figure out what he's going to tell, then they don't deserve to hear what he's going to tell them,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Makes perfect Jagged sense, right? So yeah, that was fun. I had fun.
Um, other
But
than that, what is there? Like, we are ageist with regards to Arathan,
mm-hmm.
who is still developing. He's not at the end of his
He's
arc by a long shot. He
fine,
is still
fine.
young. He is still impressionable. He is still hurt.
He's still angsty and
He's still angsty. He's incredible.
he
He's
has
a
too
guy.
little in his bag and he thinks it's a lot.
He thinks he's like the equivalent of Crocus from the Book of the
Oh, thank
Fallen.
you, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay. Um, what was it? Korya, I guess. Korya is weird
yeah. She
because
was brought up
Korya.
by Hout, so there's a lot of things
Yeah.
you can
Okay.
excuse about
That's
her.
a very good point. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I don't mean weird in the sense that like she's weird as a person. I mean weird in the sense that in this chapter she goes from all of this is pointless and like just full of pathos and just it's metaphor, allegory. It's like they're not supposed to be taken seriously. To how it said that if you name your enemy, you can march upon it. So it seems like Corey is changing her mind constantly about what this war actually means or what it pretends, and she's drawing her own conclusion about what it means to her, which at the end of the day is Hood's goal, right? It's not just
No,
destroy death.
don't you think what Korea is going through is what like someone like us from the outside are thinking? What does
Yeah,
it
for sure.
mean to have a
Yeah,
war against death?
yeah.
It's something so stupid. How can people just assemble and start warring against death? Then? It's probably just a stand-in for us, like
She's the
what
audience
we
to
are.
stand in, but like also she is the exemplary of what Hood wants, right? She wants what Hood wants isn't just destroy death because he knows he can't. He wants others to see death for what it is. It's not something good. It's not something natural. It's not something that should be respected. No, we can defeat it together. And yes, it is the grief of a Jaghut poisoned by grief, handling immense magic, sure, but it's also the will of hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of different individuals who have lost loved ones, and that counts for something.
All this backstory makes Hood appearing in Toll the Hounds in Darujistan much more, much more heavy. It's not some simple scene of just the god of death just walking in and killing people and saving one or two and going off. It's not that. It's he feels every one of those things, right? He has come through all this. Oh God, Toll the Hounds is going to make me cry much harder the next time I pick it up. I'm just so sure of that.
Yeah.
Because
When
this,
Tulas goes to Kalor and just says, like, the fucking Jaghut march from death, what did you do? Rule an empire? Congratulations, idiot. Lots of people have done that before and after you. Who else has marched from death since? Nobody.
I don't remember this.
No. I'm paraphrasing, but when like Tulas goes on, like, okay, it's technically an undead dragon of unspecified origin, but we know it's Tulas, and talks to
Oh.
Kalor about the Jaghut war and death, and Kalor weeps because it's
Oh,
unheard of, and it's just
that one.
Toll the
Yeah.
Hound's a good book. Yeah,
And someone had to stop reading it midway and then
it's also a
take a
tough
break.
book. I didn't say it's an easy book. It's a
No
good
one
book,
said it's
but
easy. Yeah. Yeah.
it's a tough one.
Oh God.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. It just gets harder and harder each time we try.
Yeah. So
I don't know. If you had to choose between Fall of Light and Toll the Hounds, which one would you call as peak Erickson?
Oh, definitely Full of Light, for sure.
Really? Really?
Honestly, yeah.
No. I would still put Toll the Hounds above.
No. I think Fall of Light's Peak Erickson for the very simple reason that the ideas being explored are more mature. But
No. All
Toll
that
the
is great.
Hounds-
All the writing and technically, it is an excellent book.
Hmm?
But Toll the Hounds is just, it comes from a place which you can't
It's
replicate,
personal. It's personal.
It's personal,
Yeah,
exactly.
It's very
yeah.
personal. In that regard, yeah, I have to agree. But for Peak Erickson, I'd have to go with Full of Light.
No, peak Erickson in that sense, in the sense that
Peak Erickson, yeah. I mean,
can't
you don't get much
write
more
another
personal
Toll the
than
Hounds.
your father died and you started writing a book to honor his memory. Yeah, that's in that sense, yes, absolutely.
Yeah. I don't know. By this time, most people who've been listening to us will just log off, right? So it doesn't matter what we talk now because from what I've seen at the end of the summary, like the graph just goes down,
Oh yeah.
so it doesn't matter.
So yeah, we'll
We
probably
take
wrap up now
a
anyway.
minute, an extra 5 minutes. It really doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Okay,
Well,
so do you want to tell people what the next 2 chapters are going to be like?
Ooh, yeah. So next chapter 7, is about the Leosan, which is great fun.
No. Not about what. Like you are going to do both the summaries.
Yeah, I'm going to do both the summaries. One's
And
about the
you're going
Leosan,
to-
and the other is Prazak and Dafinar, and they're probably both going to need to be split in twain because there's just too much to talk about. So
Yeah. So I
Yeah.
think everyone can, agree with me when I say brevity. Crop
praise for brevity. Yeah. Sing me the abyss.
The chapters are getting longer and longer as we go, isn't it?
Oh, that they are.
Yeah. So this is just. Are we still at chapter 6? It feels like we've been reading this book for a month
God,
or
yeah.
so.
Like chapter
There is
4
so
feels like I've
much
been doing like
going
5
on.
chapters. Oh God. Yeah.
Right.
Well,
Yeah. Okay. So
I think
thank
we'll
you
have
for
to
listening.
Yeah. Thank you very much, and one last drink in your memory. Cheers, and good
I
night.
finished mine. Yeah. Bye.
See ya.